Hi everyone, going to go over a few tips on how to use Warcraft logs without going into depth too much. There's a lot of concern about legendary items in the game, so I'm going to show you guys how to basically compare yourselves to players that either have the same legendaries as you or none at all. So the way we do that, go to warcraftlogs.com, click on the menu, drop down menu, and select the boss, and then click on the graph here, bar graph. You're going to select a class and a spec for that class. And once you're here, if you're unfamiliar with this page, this shows the top ranking players of this class at this difficulty. And you can see all the talents that were used by each individual when they parsed these numbers. And you could also see the equipped legendaries as well. So, for instance, my hunter only has the ring and the boots. He does not have the belt. So I want to compare myself to individuals that have the same two legendaries as me. Easiest way to do this is to right-click on each item that you want to include in your search. I open them in new tabs, and once you have done that, you click on this search button up here. You'll scroll down, and down here it has items, and you can either require or exclude. So if you only have one legendary, you're probably better off going to exclude and excluding all of the legendaries aside from the one that you have. But if you have two legendaries, since we can all only equip two, it makes it a little simpler to do. So now I'm going to go back to the tabs that I opened. I'm going to cut out the item IDs. You can find these by just clicking on links, and it's in this menu here. So cut it out of there, paste it into here. Make sure you push your enter key. If you do it right, the excluded item number should be here. So you're going to do that for both of your items. We should have two items. I said exclude, but I meant to say require. We're going to require these two, so I need to redo that. Excuse me. So we're now requiring these two items, and we're excluding none. Click search, give it a second, and now we're just going to see BM hunters that have these two legendaries. And this can give you an idea of what talents are being run by individuals that have your same legendaries. Also gives you an idea of the trinkets. So just real quick, we could see that it's debatable whether you should be using Way of the Cobra or Dire Stable. Majority of the top players are running Bestial Fury, and there are some blink strikes in here too. So I myself would say, well, this week I'm gonna go with this talent set, right? And then next week I'll go with this talent set and take it from there to see what I'm doing best with. You can also exclude all of the legendaries, and you could see what their DPS is. And you would do that the same way. Right click on the legendaries from the main search area and exclude as many as you can. Now, talking about talents, another thing that everybody should be doing weekly is swapping talents and trying new things, because this is kind of it's a new patch. Talents have been reworked quite a bit to be a little too even on fights, but it's nice because it gives you the flexibility. So the way you do this is you go to your individual page. You can get here one of two ways. If you're logged in and registered and all your characters, you could just click on this top right icon and select your player. If not, you could just search for your player and select it, and it loads the same screen. As you can see, I keep going to Trilliac. It's a single target fight, so that's why I'm going here. As you can see, what I do is I change talents each week. So my first weekend, I went with Way the Cobra and Bestial Fury. Tried it out. Second week, I went with Dire Beast and Blink Strikes. Figure why not? Let's try something different. The next week, I went with Way of the Cobra and Blink Strikes. So this week, coming up, I'm going to go with Dire Beast and Bestial Fury because I haven't done that combination yet, and see how I do. I'm competing against myself, obviously, from week to week. This is what you should be doing. If you're going to compete up against other players in the raid, that's fine. But in my opinion, you want to be better than yourself each week going into these raids. Your percentage may not go up each week as your DPS does because more and more people are doing the fights. And they're doing them quicker too. If your raid is doing this fight in 6 minutes and 22 seconds, and another raid is doing it in 4 minutes, let's say, their top DPSers are going to be pulling bigger numbers. Their whole raid is pulling bigger numbers, and the shorter the length of the fight, the higher the DPS should be. So yeah, each week try to change your talents out. This is a great way to keep track of what talents you were running if you forget, and also your DPS from the previous week. Like I said, you want to be doing better than yourself each week. You know, your item level is probably going up each week, not substantially sometimes. Sometimes you're getting tier bonuses. Some people, I don't know if my tier bonus is as good as it sounds because on paper, the agility that I have from my high level gear is not is way better than the normal tier pieces that people are completing their 4 sets with first because we're not clearing heroic. So this is a great way to see. I know everybody's like, oh, I simmed and my numbers went up. I mean, the way you play and the way a sim plays are not the same. The way any individual raid plays is not the same as any other individual raid. So in certain raid groups, I don't have to cleave as much as I would on certain fights, or I can focus more on, or I can focus more on cleave, depending on my raid comp. If you don't have a lot of cleavers and you play a cleave class that can cleave with changing out your talents, that's what you're going to need to do. If you can say, well, I'm just going to go single target because we have 4 elemental shamans, then that's what you do. Like I said, you're not trying to you should be trying to be the best of your class, but as far as your individual performance, you want to just be better than yourself each week. Another very useful thing, if you're getting beat, let's say you're parsing in the very low numbers, and you do have legendaries. What you can do is, we'll just do a compare. So I'm going to compare myself on this Trilliax heroic kill to a few individuals here. And once again, when you do this compare, it brings up people of the same spec, and it shows their talents that they used and the legendaries that they had equipped. It shows you the size of the raid, and because of the filtering I have here, the size of the raid, the fight lengths are all going to be very similar, and the item levels as well. So if you click on an individual, try to find somebody that has the same legendaries as you. Okay, here we go. Now when you get to here, the best thing to do is look at the summary first if you're doing a side-by-side comparison, and just check out and see what other gear you may be missing that this other person has. So this guy's rocking the urn, which is great. He also has looks like he's got 2 set equipped. Okay. This was the week that I did not run any tier bonuses. You can also see the relics, what his relics are doing for him. He's built around kill command. This particular fight, I was as well. So now that you see, like, okay, we have gearing is kind of the same. We could look at our individual stats. I have a lot more crit than he does, and he has a lot more mastery than I do, which is that earn probably is the whole difference there. And he has more haste than me, so he generally should be getting more focus regen, and his pet should be doing more damage than mine. But I'll be getting more crits, which hopefully will give me more diabetes procs. So, obviously the knowledge of your class is important when you're looking at these numbers, so brush up on that. But then if we go to casts and then we click on timeline, well, let's start here. If we're at casts and we're looking at the table, it shows how many of each ability we casted. So he had 13 more kill commands than I did. I had more Cobra shots than he did. We had roughly the same amount of Dire Beasts. Bistro Wrath, I was able to use it 9 times. He used it 10. Titan's Thunder, he used it 1 more time than me. So, I may be slacking on a few of these abilities that I need to step it up. He wasn't running Murder of Crows, it looks like. So, obviously, I'm going to have more than him. Let's look at real quick what he was running. So, he was running Volley, which I wouldn't recommend for Trilliax, but he did. So if we go back to casts and click on timelines, now you're going to see a side-by-side comparison of every single cast, every single button that was pushed. He had a late start. We could see here he had a late start. I don't know what this is. Tar Trap. He called his beast after the pull started at 3 seconds and then started his rotation. He actually kill commanded before popping his cooldowns. So my rotation off the bat is cleaner, but at some point I mess up and he pulls ahead with more kill commands, which could be a focus issue or whatever. But for classes that have more complicated cast sequences than BM hunters, this is a great place to learn and see what's happening for individual targets or AOE fights. You can see how they're excelling at AOE or single targeting. It's a great way to track yourself too. If you go up to 120 seconds, basically, it's 2 minutes into the fight, you should see 2-minute cooldowns being repopped with a potion. Things like that are really good to look for. You could see when he used his, he held off to this point over here. He may have been running out and handling mechanics and wanted to make sure he was good to go. He also potted right before using them, so things like this make a big difference. It could just be a little change I need to make to catch this guy, or a big one. If I wanted to see focus regen, okay, I'll go to resources. So it says focus here, but if you're a caster, it'll say mana. If you're a rogue, it'll say energy, blood decays, whatever. I actually never looked at a log for a blood decay, so I don't know. This should be showing. Oh, I'm sorry. So if you go to tables, got it confused there. He got a lot more raw gain from Dire Beast because he was running Dire Stable and I was running Killer Cobra. So you can see he had more resources to work with, which may have been, a few times I may have been starved for focus and didn't get a kill command off, which is just poor play on my part. But this is something I may consider for next week, is running his talents. See, I was running Way of the Cobra and he was running Dire Stable, so he had more regen. Like I said, this is just a few little ways to use logs. I could talk all day about them. If anybody wants more in-depth lessons or tips, let me know, and I'll submit another video of going through somebody's logs of a class that I don't know, and I'll end up learning a lot about the class by the end of my analysis of the logs. There's also a translate button up here that I just noticed. And I don't think it did anything. Let's see. Oh yeah, look at that. It changed everything to English. Cool. So yeah, look at that. Just learned something new. I had never noticed that button before. So yeah, like I said, this was just brief. I could go on about this for hours. So if anybody has any more input or questions, let me know. And like I said, try to be beating yourself every week by looking at your individual fights from week to week and trying to one-up yourself. Changing out talents is important, and how I showed you guys how to exclude legendaries from your rankings to see what other people are doing is a great tool, and you could see what talents they're using as well. So it's just something to shoot for. Good luck.